Welcome everyone for joining us for tonight's webinar. I'm Christy Pewbauer. I'm the Executive Director of the Alberta Hospice Palliative Care Association, and I'm speaking to you from the Calgary area. And in a spirit of respect and truth, AHPCA honors and acknowledges the traditional territories of the Blackfoot people, the Nakota people of the Stoney Nation, the Beaver people, the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, and all people who make their home in the Treaty 7 territory of Southern Alberta. I invite each of you to acknowledge the land where you are if you are outside of Treaty 7. Now, if you're not familiar with AHPCA, we promote public and political awareness about end-of-life issues in Alberta, and we support best practices in hospice palliative care through the development and delivery of learning opportunities for professionals, volunteers, and the public. And each spring, we would normally be hosting our AHPCA Roadshow, which is a series of full-day workshops on a variety of topics. And like a lot of organizations in response to the pandemic, our in-person learning opportunities were postponed, and we're very pleased to offer our virtual roadshow with tonight's topic, Remembering You, Self-Care During Difficult Times, led by Blair Collins. So Blair has a tremendous amount of experience and many, many years working with nonprofit organizations, and his expertise covers areas of crisis intervention, addiction, domestic violence, prostitution, sexual abuse, grief and loss, LGBTQ+ issues, including HIV and AIDS. During his career, he has facilitated hundreds of workshops on many issues. He enjoys working with people as a Provincial Marriage Commissioner in Alberta, while maintaining a personal coaching practice. AHPCA loves working with Blair. He's been a past presenter at our Roadshow, and he will be a featured presenter at our 2021 Spring Roadshow. So just before Blair starts, I guess just some business in terms of how things will run tonight. During Blair's talk, if you'd like to ask a question, because you're all muted, if you can just either wave with your hand, or if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen to the right, there is a reactions. You can click on that and choose the wave icon, and we will unmute you so that you can then ask your question to Blair. And then when we're done, we will mute you again so that others can have an opportunity to ask questions, or Blair can continue on. So without further ado, I will let Blair take over from here.
Hi, everyone. I am so pleased to be able to join you all tonight in this new way, in this new kind of medium. I am a novice to doing webinar programs like this, so this is a bit of a learning experience for me, and I'm so grateful to the staff at the Alberta Hospice Palliative Care Association that are taking care of all the technology, and I just get to sit in my room here and chat with you. At this stage of my life, really one of my passions continues to be care for the caregivers. First of all of you who are caregivers in whatever capacity, I just want to take a moment to say thank you and honor you for the work that you do. Too often I think caregivers, especially caregivers who aren't quote unquote professionals, but looking after friends or family members, are kind of taken for granted. And so quite frankly, I just want to take a moment to remind all of us how really important we are. Because we are so important, I really believe passionately about how we all have to take better care of ourselves. And so this evening, I might present one or two ideas that may be new to you, but this is also a time of a gentle reminder for all of you to take a moment, sit back, and remind yourself about the activities or the experiences that refresh you and give you energy, because we're all different people. And one of the things I've always said, and when I talk about self-care strategies, I invite people to see them as experiments. And what I mean by that is to perhaps try something new. And if it works for you and you have a positive reaction to it, you can add it to your toolkit. If it doesn't do anything for you, you simply toss it out and continue to try new experiences until you find ones that are really effective for you, because we're all different people. I sort of chuckle because sometimes I've heard of people kind of going, oh God, it's time for some self-care, as if it were another chore. The last thing any of us need is another chore to add to our days, unless it's something that you can kind of look forward to and be excited about taking a little bit of time for yourself and engaging in, then I don't think it's really helpful. We've been talking a lot about the state of our world right now in terms of all that's happening and the psychic burden it places upon us. And, you know, I know we had a presentation talking about the grief involved in all of this, but one of the things I think it's important to talk about too is the fact that many of us might be living in a state of hypervigilance and we don't even know it, because it's so natural to caregivers. Hypervigilance is nothing more than being in the state of living in constant elevated readiness to deal with or respond to a perceived threat, real or imagined. In other words, with all that's going on, it's, oh God, when is the next boot going to drop? So for caregivers, this threat has been very real, especially in these last few months. But the danger of living in this constant state of hypervigilance is constant elevated stress levels and the tendency for us to ignore our own health and well-being because we're too busy staying ready to respond to whatever the next threat is that unfolds. In such a state, self-care then becomes often the last thing that caregivers think about. So I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, you know, take a moment right now and, you know, reflect on the questions. How often do I find myself thinking or worrying about my present situation, fearing what might happen tomorrow, or playing something really stressful that happened earlier or yesterday over and over in my mind because it's really affected me? How often do I feel just too anxious to relax and take a break? Am I so busy taking care of the needs of others that I'm not even aware of how I personally am doing? Do I find myself overreacting emotionally to even the smallest things? All of these can be signs of living in the state of hypervigilance. And this, along with the grief we might be feeling, makes self-care even more important. So tonight we're talking about self-care during difficult times and some no-nonsense, simple, easy strategies to deal with it. I think one of the most important strategies I want to talk about that we all take for granted and don't think about a lot is breathing. Take a nice, long, slow, deep breath. One of the things within our North American culture, a tool that we use to sort of control our feelings is to stop breathing. And think about it. The last time you felt the urge or the need to cry and it wasn't a safe situation or appropriate situation, how do we hold back the tears? We hold our breath. And we get so used to doing that most of us breathe somewhat more shallowly than we should. And so one of the reminders is to sit back for even just a minute in a chair like this and breathe. Deep inhalations in and out. This can be a really good tool during the busyness of a day when you're moving from one situation to the next. Stop in your office, in a hallway, in a washroom, lean against the wall and just take 10 to 20 deep breaths. That can really assist us in leaving the situation we left behind and preparing ourselves to enter the situation that we're going into. And in spite of how busy I know many of us are, I think we all deserve to take 1 to 2 minutes in between our tasks. And that deep breathing can give us an experience of feeling a little more refreshed and just a touch more relaxed. It's also a really nice thing to do before bed. Several really deep breaths, and you'll feel the difference. You'll actually feel the difference because we're giving our bodies the oxygen it really needs to engage in the next thing going on or relax enough maybe to help us sleep a bit. The next basics I think that are really important to remind ourselves about are food and sleep. Oftentimes, we believe we are so important and so busy responding to the needs that come our way that I don't have time to eat. I'm too busy responding to needs. Well, we all know that even emotional crisis takes physical energy to deal with. And so if we are trying to support ourselves constantly on an empty stomach or a real poor diet, this is going to be more difficult. The second thing to talk about is sleep. How much rest am I getting? And if I'm not getting enough rest, is it because I feel too stressed to relax enough to settle down and get myself some sleep? And once again, just like eating, when we are really tired, all of our emotions seem so much bigger than they feel when we're feeling more rested and refreshed. And so these are just gentle reminders of the very fundamental things to ask yourself. What's my diet like? Is my nutrition decent? And am I getting an adequate amount of sleep? So for some people, good self-care will involve nothing more than getting yourself to bed a half an hour or hour earlier and enjoying the extra energy you will get from that extra time of sleeping. The other thing I'm really enthusiastic about in my own life is engaging in what I call mindful activities. What exactly is a mindful activity? I know we've heard a whole lot about mindfulness meditation, and that is certainly an option for folks as well. But a mindful activity is nothing more than something you enjoy doing so well that you look forward to doing it. And as you engage in that activity, it sort of pulls you out of your reality to be in the moment, enjoying what you're doing. Now, I have a number of suggestions to offer in terms of mindful activities, but one of the things I ask you all to do is remember who you are. Ask yourself right now, what are activities that I have always really enjoyed doing and found relaxing and refreshing that I might have let just fall by the wayside because I feel I'm too busy or other chores take over? Can I find 10 to 15 minutes a day to engage in a mindful activity? I will offer those as the rest of the presentation unfolds here, but I think that's a really important question to start with. Remember you. What is it personally? Because you all have, I believe, a certain set of things in your toolkit for self-care that perhaps you've just forgotten or been too busy to remember. Uniquely remember those and give them a try again and see if they are as engaging for you as they have been in the past. And as I say, as we continue to talk, I'll have more suggestions for that. However, one of the really, really excellent self-care activities you can engage in, and it's a perfect time of year, is grounding. Grounding is nothing more than finding 5 to 10 minutes to sit or stand barefoot against the earth. It can't be a sidewalk, a deck, a patio, but grass or earth or sand on a beach or in a natural body of water, and that's called grounding. And there's scientific research and studies done to this. You see, the research shows that as our bodies take on stress, the cells in our body take on a slightly positive charge, and that's detrimental to our well-being. The earth by nature has a negative charge. And so when we connect bare feet to the earth, what happens is the negativity of the earth neutralizes the positive charge of energy within our bodies to help us become neutral once again, and that makes us feel better. Many people are also suggesting that regularly doing this also provides a powerful antioxidant to not only reduce our stress, but keep our bodies in a much healthier way. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because in our stages of evolution, there was a time where none of us were wearing shoes. Shoes came along by virtue of necessity, but we were meant to connect with our bodies to the earth. Another thing, just to add on to this, that is becoming very popular in Japan is forest bathing. What is forest bathing, you may ask? It is simply nothing more than spending time in a place that has a lot of trees. Experiencing the energy that goes through the trees. And again, the trees will provide a slightly negative energy. So once again, by spending time in trees or forests, so to speak, you can certainly renew your energy. Now, once again, all of these suggestions are so personal, because some people would say, oh God, I hate being out in the forest. Then maybe that exercise is not for you. However, anybody who has a backyard can take 5 or 10 minutes and just sit with their bare feet on the grass. I remember making this suggestion several years ago during one of the Roadshow presentations, and then I was back another year, and a woman who had been at the previous one said, you know what, I do shift work. And when I used to work the night shifts, it took me forever when I got home in the mornings to be able to settle down and get some sleep after the reversal of my days and nights. And she said, so what I started doing is sitting on my front steps for 15 minutes with my feet on the grass before I went in the house. And it significantly helped me get to sleep more quickly and feel more refreshed when I was dealing with those shift changes. So, there are a number of people who are definitely experience that as a really helpful thing, the grounding, okay? The other thing I'm really big on, I'll leave that till later, actually. The other thing I want to talk to you about is acupressure. Now, acupressure is similar to acupuncture, except there are no needles involved. What is involved is pressuring different parts of your body. And just so you know, by the way, all of this information will be on the Alberta Hospice Palliative Care Association's blog, posted by either today or tomorrow. So some of the things that I will show you, you don't need to worry about, well, I don't have that, or where am I going to get it, because you can look at it on the blog. So I'm going to hold this up and see if I can get it to where you can see it. This is a diagram that will be on the AHPCA's website for acupressure for the hands. And this is a really excellent tool, because acupressure for the hands is something you can do anywhere at any time. When you're sitting at your desk, even when you're sitting talking to someone, you can be massaging your fingers. Acupressure would suggest that pressure points on both our hands and our feet and on other parts of our body stimulate stress release and relaxation in other parts of the body. So that little chart I just showed up, which I will put up once again, demonstrates which fingers to massage for specific purposes or ailments. So for example, for stress, worry, and tension, you simply sit and massage one of your thumbs. Doesn't matter which one, depending on your right hand or left hand. If you are fearful or have digestion or back issues, they would suggest you massage this finger. Just gently up and down. For anger, frustration, and fatigue, you would massage your middle finger. For sadness, grief, relationship issues, and breathing, your ring finger. Don't know if that's an accident or not. And finally, for trying too hard and heart issues, your pinky finger. And as I say, even as we continue to be all together this way in the presentation, you can be massaging your hands now. And the palm of your hand, massaging gently, nourishes everything. An example of acupressure that's easy to do anywhere and all the time, just to relieve a little stress. In a similar vein, we can perform acupressure on our feet in one of two kinds of ways. We can either use a kid's rubber bouncing ball that you can still get in most dollar stores, or you can buy these rollers online that are perhaps a little easier to use because they don't get away from you like a rubber ball might. And if the rubber ball gets away on you, just get it. And what you simply do is you sit or you stand. And, you know, in the appropriate circumstances, bare feet is always good. And you put the ball between the sole of your foot and the floor and simply roll it back and forth to give the whole bottom of your foot a gentle massage. When you feel you've done enough on one side, simply put the ball into the other foot and do the same. Again, it's something people can do at their desk. Certainly you can do it at home when you're watching TV or that sort of thing. And then if you want to get a little more serious about acupressure for your body, this chart will be on the website again. This shows you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 acupressure points. The process for this kind of acupressure is extremely simple. You lie on the carpet or a floor. I prefer carpet with a little padding actually. And you simply take that same small rubber ball and you place it under your body on that acupressure point and simply lay back on the ball and breathe. And that stimulates muscle release and relaxation. The 6 points are that little bump right at the top of your neck where you feel your vertebrae connecting to your skull. I don't know what it's called. The center of each shoulder blade, your coccyx or tailbone, and the center of both your buttocks cheeks. So you can spend as long as you like on each of those acupressure points, but even 5 or 10 deep breaths while relaxing, experiencing the pressure of the ball from the floor on that acupressure point can elicit deep relaxation. This is often thought to be a real help for people who are feeling real stress before sleep and they can't relax enough to sleep. It's a good thing doing before bed. I remember sharing this exercise with a friend of mine who had a fear of flying. So much so that when he was scheduled to fly, as he had to do, he literally said he would not sleep for 2 or 3 nights before the flight until it was over with. Well, I was living in Ottawa and he was in a small town just outside of Ottawa, and he came to spend the afternoon before his evening flight. So I made him do this on my living room floor, and he actually fell asleep while he was doing it. When he woke up, he was astounded because that never happened so close to a flight he had before. So it's an easy, inexpensive exercise to do, so I encourage you to give it a try. Now, as to other ways to engage, remember I was talking about those activities that take you out of worrying about what happened today or anticipation of tomorrow, just allow you to be present in the moment and enjoying things. One of my favorites, my all-time favorites, is coloring. I have colored hundreds and hundreds of pictures. I love to doodle in color. Now, I do my coloring with a bit of technology. I own an iPad and the pen, and I bought an $8 app that allows me to insert any coloring or any other picture I want into it and either recolor it or adjust it or color it from the lines. And I can't tell you how much time I spend doing that. And even a lot of times while I'm watching TV, I will color as I watch TV. And so I have this little joke to show you here. I hope you'll be able to see it. I'll see if I can put it up here. It says, it's supposed to relieve stress. There we are. And ironically enough, that is a picture I colored and then printed it off. That's from my iPad. So there we go. The other thing that I encourage people to do, because coloring can be so relaxing, is I often, you know, when I've worked with organizations, I've said, have some coloring pages and crayons on the staff room table. And for sure, have it in any waiting room where you're working. And especially if you're working with adolescents, teens, or children, it is great to have coloring pages around. It helps people calm right down. One of the ones I am not in favor of, because it doesn't work for me, but it does for other people, is journaling. If you've had something really significant or upsetting happen to you during the course of a day, and you really don't have anyone to debrief with, a good thing to do is to come home and write those feelings out. I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm still upset, I'm really shocked by what I witnessed today, I'm really upset by what happened, and write it down. And then, even though I'm jumping ahead, because we will talk about rituals, then what you can do is say, I leave all of this in my journal and shut the journal so I'm free to continue the time I have on my own without carrying the burden of what I was carrying. In other words, letting it out and storing it away. Okay? Another one I'm extremely fond of is taking a mental holiday. Now, what does that mean? It can mean a number of things. If you have a holiday or a special time that was extremely enjoyable and restful for you, get out the pictures. Take a little time to just sit and savor the memory of that wonderful experience or time you had. The other thing I'm a big believer of is YouTube. If there was a place you visited that you loved, I can almost bet each and every one of you that if you typed into that place, into the YouTube search machine, you would find videos that reflected, enabling you to see that place and space you were, to go there again actually and enjoy it on video. I myself am a little more enthusiastic about that. Wherever I go, I take my own videos. And I dare say, when I return home, I watch my videos over and over again. As anyone who's ever heard me speak before knows, I am a Hawaii lover. I love the sun, the beach, and the sand. And during these COVID times, I've been to Waikiki Beach probably 20 or 30 times because I put on my VR glasses and I just enjoy a video and remember the smell of the air, the warmth of the sun, the lulling sound of the ocean waves coming in. In other words, putting myself back into those times where I was relaxed and refreshed. And when you do that as fully as you can, it really helps you leave the moment of tension and stress and worry about what's going on, either at work or with the COVID or that kind of thing, to get an emotional break from hearing about all of that and dealing with it in a constant kind of way. So a mental holiday can be a really helpful thing to do as well. The other, another suggestion I have is to be using technology. Technology can provide us with wonderful ways of supporting us in our stress reduction and relaxation. These will be posted as well on the AHPCA's blog tomorrow. But what I have here are pictures of, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with this. There we go. 4 of my favorite Apple apps, but I know they're also available on Android phones and that sort of too. These apps involve using binaural beats. Now, what binaural beats are a series of sounds, and you will need to use earphones for these, that are played just slightly off kilter between one ear and the other, so subtly that our ears do not pick up the mismatching, but our brains do. And as a result of that, it stimulates our brains into other states, or supports us going into these other states that can be very helpful for us. So for example, on Altered States and the Brainwave app, they have settings to induce relaxation, to promote meditation, to promote creativity, to de-stress, to facilitate dreaming at night. And you know, I confess with a little embarrassment, I haven't used them for a while, but when I do, even 5 minutes before going to sleep, my sleep is deeper and more restful. I have found that. So I'm a big believer in also, you know, as many issues that people have with technology, there are some wonderful things that we can benefit from by using that technology to our best advantage. And so the sample 4 apps that happen to be my favorite will be posted on the blog tomorrow. And just as an aside, one of the things I'm really big on is there seems to be a new trend within apps that you no longer buy them, they rent them every month. I refuse to do that. If I can't buy the app outright, then I'll move on to one I can. And so actually, if you Google through your own app library, apps for meditation and stress reduction and binaural beats, B-I-N-U-R-A-L, dozens of apps will come up for you to try and experiment with. So I have used those. Tonight's presentation is a friendly reminder for me to get back and be using those a little bit. And so I hope to do that. Another really important thing amidst all of this chaos is laughing. And some people say, well, how can you laugh in such difficult times? Or if you knew how stressful my work life and my home life was right now, there's not a lot to laugh about. Again, my challenge is go onto YouTube and find a joke that makes you laugh. Just the other day, some of you may not remember the comedian Phyllis Diller. I loved her growing up. She had her own TV show and she was funny. Well, I searched for Phyllis Diller on YouTube and found a number of her stand-up comedy routines that literally left me belly laughing. We need to take time out from the stressors and find a reason to have a giggle and laugh. That is a stress release as well. The exact opposite as well, cry. Crying has such a bad rep in our culture. When it comes to grief and loss, survivors of a loss are often left alone because their friends often say to them, I am so afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing that might make them upset or cry that I know what I'll do, I just won't see them at all. As if making someone cry was a horrible thing. Many of us, every now and then, need to have a good, snotty, teary, watery, all-out cry session. How do we do that? Depends on our comfort with doing that, because there are so many situations where we just don't feel comfortable with that. Have a cry date. What's a cry date? The space and alone time you need. There are a couple of scenes from a couple of movies. I even tear up when I think of those scenes, but if I need a little priming of the pump to get me going, I'll put on one of those scenes and allow myself to cry and just have it out. And we all know, remember the last time you cried, whether voluntarily or not, when you're done that cry, everything's not okay, but you feel just a little bit lighter. And especially during these times that have involved so many layers of grief, I frankly don't think any of us are crying enough. And we protect one another from crying, as if crying is a sign of weakness or failure. And what I used to tell kids when I was doing grief work with them is crying is your body way of showing you that your heart is healing, because it really is. So remember that. Crying is the external manifestation of our heart being healed. None of us should be afraid of it, and we should encourage that in others and certainly in our clients. Crying. Another thing to do that really lets off a lot of energy and steam, I love my little slides here, singing or dancing. So I ask us all, when's the last time you sang along at the top of your voice to a song you love on the radio? Perfect place to do that is our cars. We're alone, we're not disturbing anyone, and we can sing along to our heart's content. Sing as if you mean it. And when I worked with teenagers, I'd get them to have playlists. Songs to sing when they're happy. Songs to sing when they're sad. Songs to sing when they're missing someone. And sing along. It is another way, for sure, of doing grief work. Doing grief work. It was funny, secular songs that I took for granted when I was really young have new meaning. I, as a young boy before the Beatles came along, was a Brenda Lee fan. Anybody remember that name? She was a singer, and just recently I heard one of her songs again, and the lyrics were, "The sun comes up and breaks the dawn as usual. I lie awake and find you're gone as usual. But I can't find a way to let this crazy heart of mine forget. I pretend that you're still near me as usual." And it just hit me for the first time. Oh my God, what an amazing grief song. All of the words just, and now it was a song about, I think, a lost love, but it didn't much matter because it really worked. And I went, I'm going to put that one in my toolbox. That's a good grief song. So singing, and next time you're cleaning the house, do a little dance in between the scrubbing and mopping and stuff. Move around a bit and get your body going. And I don't know about any of you, but if you're as allergic to exercise as I am, dance is really the only way I'm going to get a lot of physical activity, because I don't mind doing that when I'm by myself. However, I'm not so big on exercise. So that can kill two birds with one stone and be another way to really relax and let all that tension out in a more vigorous kind of way. The other thing I think is really important for all of us right now, limit the amount of news you watch every day. We could be saturated in Trump and racism and COVID 24 hours a day if we wanted to be. One of the dangers of becoming a global community is it is overwhelming for any one of us as individuals to take on all that's happening around the globe. It's too much. And it's not like we don't care. We just become overwhelmed. So while I think it's really important to be and stay informed about what's happening within our community and area, It makes no difference if I hear about the horrible car crash or house fire in France or Germany around the other side of the world. Not because I don't care, but maybe I shouldn't hear about it because those kinds of things make me care too much. So censor the amount of news you are going to take in every day. We've got to almost kind of protect ourselves from it at this stage of the game. And while I'm on that subject, you might want to look at censoring your media exposure as well. And what I mean by that is, are you mindful of the kind of television shows you relax in front of? Are they filled with violence and crime and murder and human conflict? Or are they gentle and funny or fantastical? And you all know your own likes and dislikes when it comes to media. But more and more these days, what I'm finding, if it's about crime and murder and human suffering, I don't want to see it. That's not part of my entertainment anymore. It does my heart no good. And for sure, when I find that a show or movie is causing stress to rise in me because I'm right into that moment, I know that's not a movie I should be watching right now. Because we all get enough of that empathetic connection in our real lives around us. We don't need to do that in our entertaining lives. So you need to ask yourself, again, in terms of self-care and taking yourself out of your life into the present moment, what are shows that I may choose to binge watch that I enjoy, take me out of my own reality into another world for a little while, and give me a break? Those are the shows we can consider watching or looking. I remember when I worked at the distress center in Calgary here, one of the counselors faithfully always had a book she really loved, and 15 minutes of her lunch break would be in her office, the door shut, and escaping into the next little bit of her story. That was part of her own self-care regime. So reading can become that as well. And I'm not talking about any clinical books or self-care books. I'm talking about a good, wonderful story that is meaty and chewy for you, that you can let yourself into and simply be there in the moment. A couple of the last things I want to talk about are multitasking activities and rituals. And I put them together because my definition of a ritual is nothing more than an activity or action that we give specific meaning to for a specific purpose. And I think rituals can help us disengage from our work life and make changes, and disengage from worrying to settle down and being in another kind of way. So for example, in earlier times in my life, I really didn't believe in uniforms. I really didn't believe in that kind of way of identifying people and stuff. But I am revisiting that. I am a big believer that to help us transition and leave work behind, we should have work clothes that we do not wear at home. And when we put those clothes on, it helps us assume the identity of the particular caregiver we are going to be in that situation. So a small example, and I'll see if I can do this here. Yes, I can. Right there. This little pin I'm wearing on my shirt, and this has been now probably a 10-year ritual for me. This little pin was my maternal grandmother's, who I was very close to. And it was a gift from her daughters one Mother's Day or birthday. And when she died, this and her rocking chair were given to me. I depend on my grandmother and my other ancestors. So before I begin any workshop or presentation, this pin goes on, and I always say, "Grandmother, be with me in this moment and inspire me in a way I may or may not know to touch someone and make a difference today. And thank you for journeying with me. At the end of the presentation or workshop, and same with tonight, I will thank her and her pin will go back into a little box in my bed table until the next time I'm doing the presentation. What that does is it empowers me to do what I'm supposed to be doing in the particular moment. But then when I'm done, by removing it, it also symbolically helps me let that go. Blair, the teacher, is gone, and now Blair's going to be home. So I suggest that people consider various pieces of clothing or articles that they reserve just for work or professional lives, be it jewelry, a scarf, a specific outfit. That choice is up to you. But something that at the end of the day, you can take off that symbolizes, I am leaving this role here, and I will take it back on when I put this back on another day or another shift. That's an example of ritualizing even the clothing we wear. Many, many rituals can involve the way we grieve as well. For example, I always remember the story of one woman who, when her husband died, she kept his car. And every Friday afternoon, in the driveway, she would hand wash it in honor of her husband, who had always done that. And she talked about how it made her feel closer to him, honoring his memory, and she felt very peaceful and satisfied when she finished washing that car. So the washing of the car had a deeper, more specific meaning for her than simply keeping the vehicle clean. Rituals can also be multitasking. For example, my custom is to shower every morning. When I get into the shower, I stand for a moment and let the water simply run over me. And I thank the earth because I know water is a source of life. As I soap up my head and my, what used to be hair, I say, universe, as I wash this, may I be washing away all of the troubles I'm carrying away from yesterday. When I wash my hands, I say, may my hands be made pure to do the work I'm called to do today. When I wash my feet, may my feet carry me to places I need to be of service to others. Then I get out of the shower and I've killed two birds with one stone. I'm clean and I've had a moment of significant meditation. And by the way, hand washing is another wonderful thing to do. Not only is it really important during our time of COVID, but it's a really great way to disengage from work. The last thing you do before you leave the building is go into the washroom, lather up your hands. As I wash my hands, may I wash away all the cares of this day, which I will pick up and continue to work with when I'm back tomorrow or whenever. Simple little hand washing gesture. And rituals are only limited by your imagination. By your imagination. You can do anything in honor of someone, anything at all. And so it's simply engaging in possibly a very simple activity and giving that specific meaning. So for example, another great grief ritual when you're missing someone is to sit down and have a cup of tea with them. I am drinking this in honor of you. Or to have a snack that you knew they loved so much. I am enjoying this on your behalf. May your spirit be with me. How do I relax that way? Well, it's also about being very mindful about what we do. And before we engage in that activity, the last thing I want to talk about is don't be afraid to use your available resources. And what I mean by that is, if you are working for an organization, most organizations offer you in your package an employee assistant program that has a certain number of free counseling sessions available. For us caregivers, counseling has a really bad name. And even amongst my own peers, I knew people who'd say, I never avail myself of the free counseling resources that are part of my package because if it were found out I was using them, I'd probably lose my job. And my response is, what does that say about the roles we were in if we don't believe we have the right to access the same kind of supports we're offering other people? That's just an aside. But the other thing is to buddy up with someone. Do you have a close friend or a colleague that you regularly can debrief with? Not to solve anything for you, but to be able to phone or even go on Skype and video call like this and say, hi, I've just had a day from hell and I just want to vent about it. Sure, let it go. You'd be surprised how much better you'll feel when you've been given permission and the space to safely talk about the emotions and the experience and what you are feeling as it happens. The other option is most every center you have access to crisis lines. And again, crisis lines have a really bad name. When I worked at the Calgary Distress Center here, we operated the 24-hour crisis lines. And people hear the word crisis, and I would ask people if they'd use the crisis line. Well, no, because I wasn't really in crisis. Those lines are there for you to do such a thing as, hi, my name is Blair, and I'm a social worker, and I've had a really bad day, and I'm just calling in to do a little venting. The crisis line worker will say, sure, let her rip, and it's confidential, and they don't even know who you are. You can speak your piece and then say thank you for listening and good night. Those are resources available to all of us if and when we find the need to have them. So I really encourage people to use or think about, well, what resources are available to me when I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and have I ever used them? And just going back to a moment for, possibly free counseling sessions that you might have in your employee assistance package, I suggest to people, don't save those sessions for when you are in crisis. See them as tune-ups. We do not wait till our cars break down on the highway till we take them in for an oil change and new spark plugs, etc., etc. So, I've suggested to people, okay, you have 6 free counseling sessions a year. Use one every 2 months just to go and say, hi, I want to tell you how I've been doing the last few months. It helps you become more self-aware as you talk that through with someone else. It's confidential, and it keeps you in a better state of good mental health to know you're doing that before you find yourself moving close to stress or burnout in your life. Okay? Finally, an activity that involves ritual and multitasking and being present in the moment. So I'm going to turn around here. If you remember, you were asked to have a beverage available. Now, initially when I thought of this, I was thinking, because I have a number of favorite beverages, one of my favorite being a glass of really cold but not ice water. Oh, I love that and can savor it. Apple juice, clear lemon tea. But another favorite I have is a bourbon Manhattan. Yes, it's alcoholic. It does not need to be alcoholic, but a mindfulness way of having a drink is to take it. Before doing anything, savor the smell. Does that smell take you somewhere? What does the smell of a Manhattan remind me of? Well, it reminds me of Waikiki. Because really, I don't drink much in my own life at home here, but I enjoy a few of these when I'm on holidays. Once I've smelled it, take a sip. Savor the taste in your mouth. What does it do to your senses? Enjoy the flavor. As you swallow, be mindful of the liquid moving down into your body. Is it nourishing you? Is it giving you energy? Is it refreshing you? Depends on the beverage and your choice and your preference. When we do that, it's not like, oh God, today was a bad day. I still can't believe that woman said that to me in the hallway today and I'm so upset. It's about, no, I'm focusing on this. I'm enjoying this, which is why it has to be one of your favorite beverages. So it really is a pleasant experience for you. It's the mindful way of having a beverage. It works wonderfully with a cup of coffee in the morning, a cup of tea at the end of the day, or an alcoholic beverage, so long as your agenda is not to self-medicate. This isn't about trying to numb yourself with a drug. It's about having a beverage you really enjoy. Now let's translate that. Do you have a favorite dessert? Do you have a favorite food? On a tough day, indulge yourself. And in the same way as you have the drink, you don't wolf whatever it is down. You take it. You savor it. You taste it in your mouth. You enjoy the flavor. And you imagine as you swallow it, this is going to nourish my body and give me comfort. This is a way I consciously choose to take care of myself. Because really, the bottom line is for all of us, the only person who will never leave us and always journey with us is us. So doing these kinds of things is also about promoting a relationship of caring from me to myself. So as we come close to the end of our hour here, I say cheers. May you find the exercises that nourish and refresh and rejuvenate you and give you a break from all the stressors of your life, because, my dear people, you deserve it. Cheers. And we'd be open for comments and questions. I'm seeing some people wave. Do I do anything?
I think Elaine Mansfield has a question. I saw that.
Sure.
Yes, am I unmuted?
You are, yes.
No, just to comment how much I appreciate this, especially the multitude of choices which relate to the whole business of finding what is a pleasure for yourself, finding that thing that's not a task, but in fact a pleasure, and that you will look forward to And I just think the whole talk was bristling full of ideas and reminders. And yeah, so I just really think it was very helpful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I really do have a lot of passion of gently inviting people to remind themselves about so much they already know. Because we get so busy, we forget the toolkit we have. And it's like, what have I done in the past that really, really I savor and enjoy? We deserve that, you know?
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Blair or comments? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You're unmuted.
It's Lynn. Am I unmuted?
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, hi. I really enjoyed your talk. I thought it was amazing. I've done some work. I'm a palliative nurse clinician. When I did my master's, I focused on joy as a symptom. Have you ever done any work with joy as a symptom or joy as a way of reconnecting people to who they are and give them moments away from end of life? Because I feel that we all need vacations mentally away from when we have an end of life diagnosis. I sometimes call it the hope vacation or the joy vacation. And I've done some work with folks and just said to them, you know, keep a sort of a cupboard, a mental cupboard of joy activities. And I'm just wondering if you've ever done any work along that line.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful question, and a wonderful insight for me, because I think it's been kind of implicit in some of the things I offer. Like, for example, me taking my mental holiday back to Hawaii brings me joy. I just, and the awareness for me, thanks to you, thank you very much, is that, yeah, that is about joy as well. And maybe it's worthwhile talking a little more concretely about that. Finding things that give you joy, for sure. Absolutely. And my hope would be that any of the self-care strategies that we choose to engage in, we do so because they give us moments of joy, or at least real deep, peaceful pleasure. So absolutely, I think we're on the same page with that, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair.
Anyone else with a question or comment for Blair?
Well, in closing, I just want to say two things. In some ways, tonight involved for me a bit of grieving. The grieving of the new way we have to be together right now, because I miss connecting with people. I'm a real people person, and this is very nice, and it's great to be able to see your faces, but I do look forward again to the day when we can be together in a group, even if it's with social distancing, but connecting in person once again. And so I acknowledge that. But at the same time, I want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to learn to be with people in a new and different kind of way, because there are great benefits to this as well. We can be literally anywhere in the world and engaging in this kind of enterprise without having to travel for miles, or even, you know, through rush hour traffic to get somewhere, as opposed to being sitting in comfortable spaces and connecting in this kind of way. So I want you to know how much I've appreciated this as well. Okay. Well,
thank you, Blair. We have really appreciated you. And I know for me, I have a lot that I'm taking away from that, from the force bathing, I think, and the grounding. I think there's just so much. And I just wanted to thank you that you could join us tonight. And we look forward to having the opportunity to see you present again in the fall. We're going to have a speaker series that will run throughout the months of October, November, and into the first part of December. And Blair is going to be one of our speakers at that. And then, of course, at our in-person roadshow in the spring of 2021. So thank you again for everyone. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Take care, everyone.